Welcome to the New Mom Talk podcast, your go-to podcast for evidence-based answers to your burning questions about parenting. Join us as we dive into commonly Googled topics and hear from experts and real moms. Let's navigate parenthood together, one question at a time. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited for today's episode. So we are going to be talking about speech therapy, milestones, and norms, which I feel like is a very big topic in the parent community because you're always wondering, is my child meeting all of these milestones? Are they saying their first words on time? Are they able to communicate their needs? So for that, we have Tala today.
Thanks so much for having me. So my name is Tala Hershey. I am a pediatric speech language pathologist. I am a mom to my own two toddler boys, and I'm a toddler language expert. And what I do is I coach parents on how to use the same strategies that I've been using for a decade in my speech sessions and with my own kids at home. So my goal is to train you on how to get your toddlers talking.
I love that. So I was a special ed teacher before I had my son, and I feel like I still use a lot of the same techniques that I would in dealing with behavior in the classroom with my son. Behavior sounds so bad, but just like, a visual schedule, choices, those type of things.
Oh, we live on visual schedules in my house. I swear by them. But to your point, what I tell parents is once you learn these strategies and you learn to do what we do as speech pathologists, you can't unlearn it. So it just sort of becomes who you are and how you interact with your toddler. And then you get to use it all day long and then you see the results.
Yeah, that's true. So let's start off with the first 3 years of life. So what are the key speech and language milestones parents should expect the first 3 years here?
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to start off by saying the birth to 3 developmental window is the most crucial window for language learning. It is when your child's brain is what they call the most plastic for language learning and the most moldable, and it's where they learn the most all at once. So this is such a crucial window, and it's very important for parents to know that so they take action if they need to. So you were mentioning milestones, norms. The other thing I want to note is if you Google, what should my toddler be doing at 18 months, you're going to get 1,000 different answers, right? So I just want to touch on the difference actually between milestones and norms. So milestones is the minimum. So you'll see my 18-month-old should have 5 to 10 words, right? That's a milestone. Actually, the average, which is the norm, is about 30 to 50 words by 18 months. So you asked for a few milestones, I'll give them to you, or I'm going to give you norms. I like norms better. By 12, 13 months, your toddler should really be starting to use 2 to 5 words consistently. Mama, dada, maybe ball, milk. I also want to stress that approximations of words count and animal sounds count. So if ma is milk, but they're using it consistently for milk, that counts. That's a word. So that's the average for 12 to 13 months. That's what we want to see. By 18 months, and you'll see why this window is such a huge developmental window. Again, by 18 months, we want to see that 30 to 50 words coming through. And then by 2 years old, this is when the biggest language explosion happens. This is where I tell parents, you really shouldn't be able to count their words anymore by 2. And we're going to put a few disclaimers here because I think that norms and averages can scare parents. And I don't tell you this to scare you. Quite honestly, you can go and Google it and scare yourself. But and we will as parents, right? But what I want to make sure to say is that if your toddler is behind on their language, they're not meeting these exact norms. They're not going to wake up on their 2-year birthday and just start using words consistently and have so many words that you can't count them. But what I do want to see as a speech pathologist is that they're on that upward trajectory, right? They're getting there. They're learning new words consistently. They're using them, all those good things. My very long-winded answer to your very short question.
I love that you clarified that animal sounds would be considered a word because you don't really think, well, is that like a word, when you have a baby? But I also love that you mentioned everything about that 2-year age because I feel like, at least with my son, once he hit 2, it was just like this explosion of
Hmm.
words, and now he talks all the time. It's so exciting to see all of these words come out and like they're able to communicate their needs a little bit better instead of just getting frustrated that you're not understanding. So,
Exactly. And especially for the toddlers who really understand everything that you're saying, but aren't maybe talking yet. Those are what are called late talkers. It's frustrating to not have those words to talk to you.
yeah, well, this is actually a perfect lead in for my next question. How can parents support their baby's language development at home through just everyday interactions?
Yeah, so that's the key is using everyday interactions because if you're listening here and you're a parent, you don't have an extra like half hour to set aside to do this. I don't have it, you don't have it, I know. So the key is to really incorporate strategies, very specific strategies into your everyday routine. And this includes doing the laundry, unloading the dishwasher, like these annoying things we already have to do, you might as well take advantage of it. So I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, a little bit, but it's very important for what you just asked. And it's the difference between passive language modeling and active language modeling. So again, if you were to go to Google and you were to say, how do I get my 2 year old to talk? Okay, 2 year old's not talking. How do I get them to talk? Google's going to tell you read to them all day, read to them constantly, keep talking to them, narrate what you're doing, use flashcards, which I'm not going to get up on my soapbox about right now, watch Miss Rachel, like all these things, honestly, that you're probably already doing, right? You're not just sitting in silence with your toddler. You're probably talking to them all day, narrating things. You're doing this, but still not cutting it, right? They're still not picking up that language. This is the key difference between passive and active language modeling. So, all these things that Google is telling you, and honestly, social media too, they're passive. Your toddler doesn't need to be engaged with you. They don't need to interact with you. They don't even need to be thinking about what you're talking about, right? You're just talking at them. The difference is you need to shift gears and talk with them. So you need to start learning to create situations where your toddler is engaged with you, where maybe they need something from you, or you're in a turn taking conversation, or you have something they want, or whatever the situation is, where they're with you. They're looking at you, they're engaged with you. And this is honestly like 3 to 5 seconds, right? They're toddlers, they're going to move on to the next thing. But that's all you need to teach them a new word because they're with you. You're not just talking at them, you're talking with them. And the key to doing all of this, like a speech pathologist does, is active language modeling.
Okay. So, what would that kind of look like? If you're not just talking at them, how would you start to try to engage in these conversations with them on just everyday tasks?
Yeah, so something that a lot of parents, especially moms, are guilty of, and myself included, is we know what our kids want. We know what they want at 10:08 in the morning. We know that they want this, right? So we give it to them. So a really good example of using active language modeling in a situation that you're already doing is like snack time. So if your toddler is in their high chair and they want blueberries, let's use that for an example. Rather than giving them just blueberries on their tray, give them 4 blueberries. So they eat those 4 blueberries, and then what? Then you know they're going to want more, right? You know they want something from you. So they have to get your attention. They either have to look at you, whine, grunt, point, whatever they're going to do to get your attention to get those blueberries, and that's your window. You have them. So in that moment, you can teach them maybe the simple sign for more, or you can teach them the word more, or you can teach them give me, or whatever you want to teach in that moment. But you have them, they're engaged with you. You have those 3 seconds, and then you just put it on their tray, and that's it. And that's the difference.
Love that. So now I kind of want to talk a little bit on the language delays. So, what would be some common signs of speech or language delays in toddlers? And how would parents be able to differentiate between it being a delay and it being typical to their current development?
Yeah, so having these norms, as scary as they might be, are important. They're there for a reason, and they're there to raise awareness to where your toddler should be getting to. And again, I say getting to because not every single toddler is going to have obviously 30 to 50 words by 18 months. But if they're learning new words regularly, you know they're getting there, right? If they're not learning new words regularly, I would say that's a sign of maybe a language delay. If your gut tells you, and I always say, trust your gut. You know your kid better than anyone. Your gut tells you that they're not talking as much as the other toddler their age on the playground, or your niece who's the same age and comes over and is talking up a storm, right? You think at all for 1 second, maybe their language is behind, it's worth looking into, right? It's worth following your gut. So the clearest signs there, and I want to touch on receptive language also for a minute. So receptive language is their understanding of language. I've been under the assumption this whole conversation that your toddler understands everything. Everything I use in quotes. If your toddler isn't understanding you, they're not following simple directions. If you say, get your shoes, and they're not listening, I use in quotes, they're not doing the action, they don't give you that joint attention. If you're looking at a book, they're looking with you, or you're playing with a toy, they're looking with you. These are some signs that there might be a language delay as well. You have to look at both sides, the expressive language portion and the receptive language portion.
Hi everyone, it's your host Mariella. I wanted to thank you for listening and share some ways to show your continued support. You can rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Share the show with friends and family. Buy me a coffee to help with the financial costs of running a podcast. Follow me on Instagram at newmomtalk.podcast. And finally, subscribe to my newsletter. Thank you for listening. Yeah, things that you, I guess, just don't really think about, right? That you have to look at two different modes instead of just like, oh, they're not saying these words. But yeah, it makes sense. Like if they're not understanding, then how are they going to learn the words if they have no idea what they mean?
Exactly. So then we bulk up that receptive language as well.
So with that, at what point should parents consider seeking help from whether it's a speech therapist, go to their doctor, or what are the steps that they should consider taking if they do have concerns and just want to get their child looked at?
Yeah, so this is a pretty loaded question because it really depends on your child, right? And at what age they start showing signs that maybe their language isn't keeping up to pace with, same aged peers or, anyone you're seeing. Again, follow your gut. You don't need to go through your pediatrician to get speech pathology. That is a common misconception that a lot of people have, that you need a referral or you need approval or something from your pediatrician. You don't need any of it. You can go, many states, I think every state has an early intervention language program. You can go through the state. You can look for resources. You can get trainings. You can start as early as you want. I'll say that I started really honing in on using these strategies with my own kids by like 8 or 9 months, like really early.
So I love that you clarified that you don't need to go to your pediatrician. But that being said, let's talk a little bit about misconceptions about speech development that you might often hear from parents and like how you would address these with parents. I think just as especially as a first-time parent in general, you're so concerned. Are they meeting this milestone? Because I Googled and Google said that they need to be doing X, Y, and Z by this time, but they're at exactly 9 months and they're not doing it and they're supposed to be doing it.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. I think especially as a first-time parent, you're very concerned with, every parent is very concerned with their toddler's development. I mean, even the second time around, I was just as concerned, but you don't know what you don't know. So then you go to Google and you try and know, and then you get scared and then, it snowballs. So I would say I don't know if this is so much a misconception, so much as something you should keep in mind, is that we expect toddlers between birth and age 3 to develop everything all at once. They're supposed to learn to sit up and crawl and walk and eat solid foods and drink from a cup and use 50 words and start putting two words together and start playing game. Like I could go on and on. All these things they're supposed to do at once. And not every toddler is going to do all of them at their required, in quotes, age norm, right? But on the flip side of that, I don't have a crystal ball and you don't have a crystal ball. So if you have a toddler who's 15 months old and they're not really using very many words, maybe they have two words consistently, maybe they have really no words that they're using consistently. I can't tell you waiting and seeing is the right option. In fact, I will never tell you that because I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you that in 6 months from now, their language is going to catch up, or by preschool, their language is going to catch up, or because your aunt's brother's son caught up by 3 and then never stopped talking, that your son is going to be the same way, right? I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is that there is absolutely no harm in getting help if you think you need it, and you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And that's what I really want to stress to parents is I said this before, but if you even think it for a second, reach out and ask. Ask an expert, ask a speech pathologist, ask somebody for help, or just go get resources. That wasn't really a misconception, kind of. Don't wait and see is the misconception that I would like to target there. Another one is that if you just keep talking to them, they're going to pick it up, which is along those same lines, right? If they're not doing that, if you are talking to them all day long, which is probably exhausting for you, and they're not picking up new words, you're just sort of hoping that today is the day they repeat this word, or today is the day they imitate this word, switch it up. It's not working, right? Do something new. And then the last pretty common misconception I want to touch on is that using simple sign and teaching sign is going to stop your toddler from talking, which is not the case at all. Simple sign enhances language, and what it does is the reason people teach this first is because gross motor skills, jumping, climbing, imitating song movements like Itsy Bitsy Spider, those come before fine motor skills. Talking is a fine motor skill. Using pincer grasps, all these things are fine motor skills. But using sign comes first. And so this gives your toddler an immediate way to start communicating with you. It's simple, right? It's not long sentences, but now your toddler can sign open when they want something. And that's effective communication. So I would say those are the main common misconceptions that I hear from parents.
Now that you mentioned the signing, I feel like I did read something on Google about oh yeah, signing can slow down your child's ability to start using words. With my son is being raised bilingual, and I feel like I also always read things about oh my goodness, if you teach your child 2 languages, there's a delay in their speech and all of these little things. I'm like, but isn't this why they're sponges? Okay, if there's a delay, but he'll catch up and he's going to be using 2 languages instead of 1.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. That is actually another huge misconception is that speech pathologists out there even will tell parents just to pick 1 language, right? If their toddler is delayed or they're not talking because they're being raised bilingual, trilingual. First of all, for all of you raising your children bilingual, multiple languages, I'm extremely jealous. I wish my kids would be bilingual, but it is such a gift, and there is no research out there to support that using 2 languages, 3 languages causes a language delay. What does happen sometimes is that they are behind the average norm, which means they're on the low end sometimes of getting that language, but nothing statistically significant enough to cause a language delay. So keep using both languages. Talk to them in whatever language you want. It is not going to cause them to be delayed.
In Europe, they all speak multiple languages, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, that brings me to my last question. Do you have any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations for any parent out there that's maybe concerned about their child's speech?
Yeah. First I want to say you're not alone if you're concerned about your toddler's speech, and there's nothing wrong with it. I do encourage you to trust your gut and reach out to some expert for help, because the only thing that's going to do is alleviate some of your worries, right? It's only going to give you answers. So if you're up all night Googling, how do I get my toddler talking, finding norms that sort of fit within where your toddler should be, right? We all do it. I've done it before. Just reach out. I would say my biggest recommendation is trust your gut. Even if your parents are telling you to wait, your pediatrician is telling you to wait, I can't tell you enough times to not wait and see, because it does nothing and you have everything to gain by getting support now. So trust your gut. And if you are using these strategies and it feels slow and it feels like not a lot of progress is being made, I want you to remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the more consistent you can be, the more you can weave these strategies, this active language modeling into your everyday routine, the better off you're going to be.
Thank you so much. I am going to have all of your information linked in the show notes. So if anyone is interested in reaching out to you, they can find your info.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone who wants to reach out.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.